Alright, so we're back here for another Boruto episode review, and I don't really have a lot of complaints for this week's episode. I actually thought it was pretty good. Like, really good, actually. They decided to go ahead and reanimate the opening for what's currently going on, and, it looks pretty much the exact same besides, like, a little, like, subtle changes in the opening, but other than that, it's pretty much the same thing, but it still looks pretty good. But obviously, if you saw the previews from last week's episode, you already had an idea of what was going to happen. There's going to be conflict between all of the characters and what they're going to do, solely because of the existence and the importance of Kawaki and him being in the Leaf Village. Obviously, Kawaki doesn't want to be there. He just wants to get the fuck away the entire time, and that's what he ends up trying to do later on in the episode. But there's conflict. The conflict is what they're going to do with him, because and under normal circumstances they would just put him under confinement and just have him be locked away somewhere where he would get very little human interactions. But Naruto, being the way that he is and sympathizing for Kawaki's character and understanding that because he was in the position of being a Jinchuriki, if it wasn't for the people in his life, like the third Hokage, he also would have been put under strict confinement as well. But the third Hokage didn't do that because he wanted Naruto to interact with the world in some specific way, and especially because the fourth Hokage wanted Naruto to be seen as a hero, and that makes sense. But obviously that didn't end up happening, so Naruto ended up living a life where he was met with cold stares from everybody, and everyone resented him, and no one liked him. He didn't have any friends. But ultimately, him having friends ultimately is what saved him and drove him from not getting pushed over the edge and doing something that he would have regretted. Potentially, you never really know how things are going to go out unless they happen in a specific way. But from obviously what we know of how the storyline has gone towards so far, we're at a point where Naruto, sees kind of himself and can understand and sympathize with Kawaki and in the position that he's in, and he doesn't want that to happen. So he decides that he's going to go ahead and take him into his fucking household and basically just live with Naruto and his family. And obviously, again, more conflict because Boruto obviously doesn't fucking trust him, as they really shouldn't, because a multitude of reasons, other than like the big obvious thing that lingers over the entirety of the show. The beginning scene of the first episode where Kawaki is destroying the entirety of the Leaf Village. Other than that, it's like obviously there's a couple other things that point towards not trusting Kawaki completely, because they have no idea what he's about, what he's thinking, or what his motives are at any point. For most of the episode, I didn't even really know what his name was. There's conflict there, and that's like the main thing that was the most entertaining about it. Just like having these characters just be wary about him, but still obviously try to get to know him better and try to get him to open up more and be more trusting and be more willing to associate himself with others of the Leaf Village, which makes sense. That's what they obviously want to happen. But other than that, what we had in the first half of the episode was Boruto going back to Mugino's house, and that's because he had to go feed his pet turtle, and there's not really anything else left, and that's the reason why he went there. But I like how they went back, him and Konohamaru, and they're talking about it. They're talking about like the memories of what they have specifically with him. And Konohamaru talks about like, oh, he didn't really talk about himself, and he just kind of kept himself, and he was always super serious within the mission. But when he would come back home, he would spend his nights doing like bar hopping or something related to that. I thought was pretty funny. But they just basically talk about like their memories with him and what they took away from him. Boruto mentions how, even though they had kind of a rocky relationship, he learned a lot from Mugino, and that ended up shaping him for what he's going to eventually have to take later on as things progress forward. And that's fair. But ultimately, I think I really liked that part of the episode specifically because it wouldn't have made sense for them to not talk about that character's death, because the character death, and he was pretty important to these cast members and needed to be talked about because it happened so abruptly, and it happened in a scenario of which could have been avoided, and they could have done something about it, but they couldn't because of the situation of what it was and just how it transpired. And yeah, I think it just makes sense that these characters are talking about it, because if they didn't, it would just be very awkward, and it would seem like oh, they're just forgetting about him for some stupid reason. It's like, no, they're not. They obviously don't want to forget about him because he was very important to these cast members, and I like that. But other than that, honestly, there's not a whole lot other really to talk about. Other than it was just a good episode overall. I didn't hate anything about it, and there wasn't really anything that was super standout-ish besides like the whole like interactions between Kawaki and Boruto and Kawaki with everybody else. To be honest, yeah, I just thought it was a good episode, and I'm excited to see what's gonna happen next. But honestly, I have no fucking clue what they're gonna do next. I don't know how this shit's gonna lead to what we eventually know is going to lead to. I don't know what's gonna happen, but I can only hope that it's entertaining, to say the least. So that's pretty much the video. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap things up. If you like the video, be sure to leave a like, and if you want to see more, be sure to subscribe. I'll see you guys next one. Have a fantastic day. I'm out. Peace.